would like to see this at a later stage. Welcome everybody to this session. We expect to spend about an hour, and what we like to do is to introduce a methodology that is actually not new, because Paul has been working with this for more than a decade, right, Paul?
Yeah.
But it's the first time that we offer it to others, and that we also provide a training for others to work with this method. And so what we like to do today is spend a little bit of time, like the first half of the session, to talk about that. I will introduce where it sort of fits into everything that we're doing, and then Paul will talk about the methods and explain that, and then we have about half an hour or so Q&A. But don't hesitate to ask your questions in between for clarifications. If you have questions that are about application or things like that, maybe it's better to do that after we've finished presenting it. So this session is open to anybody, whether you are a ValueMatch practitioner or not. I think most of the people online right now are practitioners, but we have also allowed others that do have spiral dynamics knowledge but are not practitioners yet to join. So just be aware that not everybody may be very familiar with all our terminology, although so far I don't see any of the people that have registered that don't know our material. So good. Let me start. Maybe Paul, can you share the slides? And because the first thing I would like to do is give you a bit of an idea about where, what we're discussing today, where that fits into our the first slide, Paul. This is somewhere.
There it is.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so thank you. So the first thing I like to do is sort of position what we're talking about today, right? And I just used the 4-quadrant model of Ken Wilber for that. I'll go over that very shortly for those of you that they're not familiar with that. What you see here is, it's a way to sort of describe an entity, and we use this to describe what's going on in organizations. And so on the left side of, it's like a 4-quadrant model. On the left side, we're talking about everything which is internal, which you can't see. And on the right side, we talk about everything which is external, which is somehow tangible, or at least describable, or, which is, or concrete, you could say. Right? And so then there's the individual and the collective part, which is the top and the bottom. So then we go, to the upper left. That's where we see the individual intentional. So this is what drives the people, you could say the operating system of us humans as we operate within an organization. But this is the part you can't necessarily see, right? So this is our values, this is our attitude, this is you could say how we think. On the right side, top right side, you see the behavior of people. And this, of course, interesting thing here is that in most sort of management methods, they're either aimed at the left or at the right. And one of the things that we're trying to do here is we're trying to sort of work with all these quadrants and provide you with a set of tools that cover each of them. And then on the bottom part, you see the internal culture, internal collective, which is the culture of the organization. As ValueMatch, we like to express that also in terms of values, what sort of values drive the culture. And then at the bottom right is the structure of the organization, which is the more tangible part, you could say the processes that make up whatever the organization is doing. Also, I mean, we see things like meeting structures and organizational structure also as part of that structural part, which is tangible, which you can see, not necessarily you can touch it all with your hands, but which is at least very clear and describable. So in our view, if these four quadrants are functioning, then they work towards the purpose of the organization. Not every organization describes their, whatever they're doing in terms of purpose. It's a bit of a yellow, yellow view. But at every level, in the spiral, you can see an organization sort of focusing on its purpose and whatever that is. And the purpose may be shareholder value, right? So it's not necessarily a social idea or anything like that, but it could be. Interesting thing with I've been studying a little bit Patagonia, this organization that makes the climbing gear and things like that, and their purpose is to make a positive contribution to preserve the ecosystem. That's actually a purpose of the organization. They are now owned by two foundations that own that. And so they have a very clear purpose, which is more a yellow purpose. But, many organizations may have just shareholder value, which is fine too, just a purpose. So the instruments that we are providing for you in here, that first click poll, please. So with the values assessment, we clearly measure the upper intentional of the person. So what values drive us? It does. These values drive the behavior. We don't measure the behavior. We measure the values. And then we have the culture assessment, and the culture assessment measures what's going on in the collective, right? So how people perceive the collective, the cultural part, and the structural part. And we can make all these group assessments of that, so that you get an idea about what the culture of an organization is. And then we have the change assessment, and the change assessment sort of looks at the tension between the individual and that collective, right? So asks people how are they feeling, and then we look at what sort of area where there's more possible friction. So this is what we've had so far. And now what we're going to address today is the next click, and that is what we call the job or the values-based job profile. So what we're doing here is we are looking at the function of a person, so whatever that may be, anything in the organization, and first we describe that function, what is required of that function, and we call it, and we do that in using the value systems. And one of the other things that Paul has developed is a model that sort of describes the different work streams in an organization. And I still have to get used to our new word for that. John, help me out. I even forgot it here. I'm trying to practice. We used to call it a track, the tracks, but what did we decide on, John?
It's a while back we had that conversation, but I think work streams actually sounds right.
No, I think no. Sorry, we'll get to that. So in Dutch we call it the track model. It's sporenmodel, but in English we have a different name for it. Sorry, I somehow that new name doesn't stick with me yet. So, but what we're doing there is, looking at the content of that job, and so what is required for that job, and then we express that in terms of a values profile, and then we use the values assessment to see, the people possible candidates that you have for that job, but it may also be an internal alignment that you're doing to see whether the person fits that job. And that's what Paul's going to talk about in detail. So what you're seeing today is a first piece of the first instrument that we bring into the market that addresses the top right. And this has been one of the things we've been wanting to do that for quite a few years. With some of you have been talking about that. But this is the first thing. And it's not, so what we're presenting today is a methodology. It's something that you do, right? And it's not it has questions and things like that. So in the end of the training, if you would follow the training, you actually get some templates to use, and you get the rights to use those templates. But it's not an online questionnaire. So once you've sort of, once you've learned about how to do that and you've done the training, then you may want to do the values assessment with your candidates, but there's no cost involved for the job profile itself. It's a template that you use and that we provide you to match whatever the job is to the values or to the person, of course, and to the values profile of the person. Obviously, we don't only look at the values of the person, we look at their education, we look at their experience and things like that. So all the normal things we do when we hire people, but this actually adds a deeper layer where we look whether whatever we require of that job, if the person has is developed enough to authentically express whatever we require that. So one example, and then I'll hand it to Paul. So if a job requires us to have a mediation role, right? That is, in terms of spiral dynamics, we see that as a skill that we develop once we sort of go into the green value system, right? So certain amount of green needs to be available to that person to authentically become that. Or a project leader is typical, like an orange. It really requires an orange development, dealing with multiple timelines and thinking ahead strategically, and thinking in terms of results rather than in terms of tasks. So that that sort of skill of project management typically requires at least a well-developed orange value system. And so that's how we, that's the very short explanation how this is going to work. So now I'll leave it up to Paul to go further into this.
Okay. So the task profile is the main item of the job profile, and I will introduce that. First, I would like to orient on the human resource management, the way it developed in the past 40 years. And this is this iceberg, and the upper part, that's what you can notice from somebody. That's the behavior. That's the only thing you can see from the outside. And the behavior is controlled by the deeper layers. And the moment that I applied for my first job after university, it was in 88. And normally for a job only, if you would fit the job, there was a check on the expertise. So the know-how, if you had enough know-how, then you would qualify. But the moment that I applied for a job, and it was at Unilever concerned at that time, they had a groundbreaking change, and they stated, well, out of our experience, it's not only the expertise that counts, but the skills are very important too. And I had to play in different role games, etc. And there were a couple of people trying to find out if I would have enough skills as management skills as well. And it was at 88. And in the 90s, this was getting more common in all kind of organizations. And in the Netherlands, we called it competence management. It was a hot item in the 90s. And you see that with the increase in complexity in organizations, we have to address more and more layers in our psyche. So skills and attitude gets more important. It's a subtle difference. Skills is what you can do, and attitude is what you are. So, for example, after getting your driving license, you can manage driving a car, but that doesn't mean that you are a good driver. So quite often, after 10,000 hours of practice, you become a good driver. So that's the difference between attitude and skills. But in practice, we put it on the same level. So in practice, there is a difference, but in practice, and nobody mentioned this. But now I would like to address a new layer that's coming up in the last decade, and that's the decade of, and that's the layer of the values. And the values are very important, like Auke just addressed, because that determines if a skill can be developed in an authentic way or only in a conditioned way. Yeah. So if for example, mediation, what the example that Auke mentioned, that requires a green value system. And if the green value system is not there, is not developed, then you only can play out a kind of conditioned way of mediation. This inner listening, etc., is not balanced on the required values, and that's what we are gonna point out. Now, of course, there are more layers. I call them personality characteristics. I don't dive into that. In the future, I think more and more layers will be developed. One that I use quite often in conflict interventions is I use between two people, for example, the differences in values and the difference in core qualities. That's an aspect of the personal characteristics. But now I'm going to explain all about the values. And if you look at the way values develop, here you have those, the purple and red and all these systems. And if you just look at your personal biography, there have been moments that you got this leap in insight, in consciousness. For example, the purple in the red system, it starts in the terrible two ages, but it's in puberty, it's developed as well. And some even in the presidency, like in the United States, they dominate still. They are hanging around in the red system. So there's this leap in insight, but it doesn't mean that you already own the skills that belong to that value system. So after getting this insight, it takes a long time to get acquainted with the competences that are related to that particular value system. So this is a gradual growth. And another thing that is important to measure is where this center of gravity is situated in your value profile. Because like in this example, it's the center is in orange. That means that in principally all value systems still orange, you can develop the competences on an authentic way, because there's this layer of consciousness or insight that is well developed. But for example, in this case, the mediation skill can only be learned in a conditional way. Right? You can condition people to do that. If there are questions, then I, of course, you can ask them. So if I select people for a job, then I look at five different aspects. A very important thing is if somebody can handle the complexity of a job. I have had very experience with a lot of directors in the bosses of organizations who couldn't handle the complexity of the organization. Quite often there was a lot of red power or task blue aspects in an organization, like for example a municipality with high complex purpose, sometimes even in yellow. And if the boss can't handle these high complex systems, you get a lot of trouble in the organization itself. A lot of people, they start leaving, a lot of conflicts rise. So the first question is, can somebody handle the complexity of the position? But that means that you have to express the position and in terms of value systems as well. The second thing is, does it have developed the necessary values? So it can be a broad bandwidth of values that are required for a function. Later on, I will give you some examples of that as well. Possessing the required skills, that's obvious. Desired education, knowledge, and experience. And the last thing, if there is a good click with the colleagues. So that's a kind of touch. It's not a thing you can measure, but that's what you can feel when you encounter somebody. You feel a click or you don't feel a click at all. Okay, those 5 aspects I use for testing candidates who are applying for a function. Well, here at the left side, you can see those requirements. And here you can see the instruments that we developed to measure that. So for example, the complexity and the values, we measure with the value profile of the candidate. And in a personal interview, we check this with the personal motivation, and we reflect that to the task profile of the position. Yes, that's the first instrument. The second instrument is that you look at somebody's biography and find out if the skills, required skills, are developed or not developed at all. And that's what we express in the competency profile. Later on, I will show you the table for that. And the last thing, yeah, that's more a feeling, an impression with additional expectations. It's this click that I was talking about. Okay. Now I will give you an example. This is a director. This are all practical examples in the last decade that I found out. This is in a hospital, the director of the first aid department. And if you look at the job profile of the task profile, when patients come in, very strict procedures are executed. There's one, I took my sister. She had a severe accident into the hospital. She made a terrible fall with her mountain bike. And we ended up going through all these procedures to make an analysis what was wrong. So that's an emphasis on the blue value system. Since everything has to be done in emergency, so we were in the ambulance, this hospital car moving to the hospital. Immediately, everything had to be arranged and organized in an instant. And so that's the red profile. And making this analysis, they have to find out what kind of disciplines are required for the treatment. Very important decisions are taken just in split seconds. Does she need an operation? Maybe she has to go through and scan first and all that kind of stuff. So that's the integrated yellow system. Another example is a manager of a construction company. It was a company that took over a lot of other companies, and they had to integrate these other companies in their systems. All these systems had to be fine-tuned. So there's a big emphasis on the blue system. But since they were a commercial party, they had to develop a lot of new projects, etc. The biggest value system that was needed was the orange system. And of course, there were a lot of, because a lot of different companies were integrated, there was a lot of troubleshooting as well. So that's the red system. Well, and a bit, they wanted to do a lot of new product development, and there was a bit of yellow expected as well. This is another example. Head of the HR department of a port in the Netherlands, Port of Amsterdam. There were big changes in the organization, and they were moving from a governmental organization in a more kind of entrepreneurial organization. So there was a strong emphasis on result-driven work. This is orange system, and organizational development. It's in general is a green skill. So this was an example of the head of the HR department, and this is a program that I facilitated, and it's the integrated river management in the Netherlands. So there was a management of all the rivers in the Netherlands. We, as you know, we live in a delta with the Rhine, with the Maas, with the Schelde, and they were trying to combine all functions of rivers, so safety, transportation, recreation, drink water, all these functions had to be combined. So there was a strong emphasis on the yellow system, very high complexity. And with a lot of organizations, they had to collaborate together. So for the manager of this organization, there was a prerequisite that the yellow system was really very well developed and in his value profile. Later on, I will come back to this example. So match, how do you do that? Match the task profile and the value profile. I'll give you some practical examples. For example, over here, this is the same guy. This is program manager of integral river management in the Netherlands. This is his task profile, and this is his personal value profile. And as you notice, you will find a few matches. Anybody has an idea where to find the matches? Nobody? Shall I tell you? Okay. There are 4 dominant value matches. So you find a very good match on the yellow system, the green system, the orange system, and the blue system. Well, it has a bit of rejection as well. I didn't consider that as a big problem, but well, it's okay. You can have a discussion at that. But the weakest point in this person was the rejection on the red system, and the very little development of the red system. And he had to do, it was a kind of political arena he was working in with a lot of different interests, etc. So a lot of politics were involved. So, but this in general, I thought it's a good match, you know, and the attention thing is, it's a kind of warning. Be aware that you have to be a political figure sometimes as well. But there was
can I add something here?
Yes, please.
Because I think, you know, also when we do the ValueMatch certification training, we look into how to analyze this, and then one of the aspects of rejection is that there's different aspects of a system that you can reject, right? So in blue, you can reject the rigidity of one truth, but you can also reject structure. And I think one of the things why later I'll explain that, you know, you have to understand spiral dynamics and the assessments quite good to work with this, because here in a conversation you're going to have to find out with that person what that red and maybe the blue rejections are about, to see whether that is, you know, because just the fact that the graph shows it there doesn't, you know, that needs further investigation. And that's also what Paul says, this is an intention, it's not necessarily a red flag. It can become a red flag if you find out. So and I think this is also where, you know, we're trying to, you know, we create these instruments that give you data, but then it's your skills as a coach or an organizational developer to then go deeper in the conversation and to find out what that really is about.
Okay, thank you. Very good addition. Now we go to the next example. In this project, this guy was managing. There was a project leader, and he was assigned for the political decision-making process. So over here you can see his task profile with an emphasis on the red system, with this political arena he was working in. And of course, he had to make them collaborate. So green was needed, and strong procedures, the blue system, to get all these politicians in the same carriage, so to speak. And can you hear can you see over here his value profile? When I saw that, I thought, oh, good heaven, you know. And because there was a very important mismatch, that were matches okay on well the yellow system a bit, since sometimes it means that it is quite developed, but it's not in the consciousness anymore. The green system was his favorite system, but look over here. This guy, he just hated this political game. And since he was such a nice guy, had a high green level, everybody was helping him. Yeah, we don't blame him. He's so nice. And that's what happens quite often. If there's a mismatch, the mismatch is compensated by your colleagues. They try to help you, etc. But in fact, you know, the mismatch is then not corrected. And in fact, in general, we don't know about these mismatches since we don't measure them. But now we can measure them. So that was quite a risk. And of course, he was not result driven either, and that was required. So on the orange system, there was his match, and he didn't have a lot of eagerness in the blue system as well. So based on this on this match, you can state there's a significant mismatch. And this guy is a perfect project leader, but not on this project. For environmental management, he could qualify, but not on this part. So this is quite a clear example of a mismatch. Well, and what I stated, okay, the value systems that's required to develop to authentic competences. And we developed this table with a lot of different competences related to the colors, to the value systems over here. And we look at different categories, leadership, that's the first row over here, all competences for leadership, external orientation for knowing the environment. So over here, we made an analysis of a lot of agencies that are using competences, and so this is quite comprehensive and complete overview over here. This is connecting people, internal orientation. That's finding out an approach. What's your strategy to gain the objectives, the results, and this for the execution. Yeah. What I in general do, I let them select 5 main competences per row for addressing a specific function. Well, this is my last slide. So to give you an overview, based on this table, we develop competence profiles as well for a position. Well,
But
this
maybe
is all.
it's also good to mention here is that so what you end up, if you do the job profiling, you end up with a values profile of that job, but you also end up underneath it in that same document, you get the list of competencies. So you get like a 1-page value systems competencies, which you then can use in a conversation with a candidate. And then next to that, you lay the values assessment, and that's how you start making these. And we're working. We'll be providing you like a template Word document where you just fill it out and the result comes out. So at the end. So.
Yeah. So this is a brief summary of the idea that's behind this, and maybe there are some questions.
Okay, stop sharing, Paul. Good. Any questions? I'll go into the practicalities of the trading in a minute, but just before that. Just about the content, about what Paul discussed here. Yeah, Andrea, please.
I don't know whether it's something I want to say, because the reason I've come is because I actually work with job seekers. But a lot of these job seekers, I mean, that's part of my work. I also do organization development. But the job seekers I work with range from anything from a forklift driver to an accountant or a project manager or whatever, right? And in a way, what I saw now was that there was probably more of a leaning towards the higher level jobs in terms of the descriptors you had in each of the areas. And I just wonder whether you see it as a more useful tool with more sort of white collar jobs, or whether you have used it also with people at lower positions rather than manager positions.
Yeah. Well, it's my experience. I was asked quite often for top jobs, so that's why I based my experience on that. In general, in principle, you can do it for any job, but what I can see is that the amount of time normally used for acquiring processes for top positions is a bit more than for truck drivers, for example. But maybe you have an insight and that changed as well in time.
Because I'm probably not so much thinking from the recruitment side than from the helping my participants to identify the kinds of jobs they might be going for, and they might have the values and the skills to do beyond what they might have imagined in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the principles are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But this is based on my experience.
Thank you.
Henriette, please.
Yes, so it's not clear to me, how do we determine the values of the jobs?
Yeah, well, that's what we will train you
Okay.
in. Yes. And that's what Auke was talking about, these what did we call them? Job tracks?
I should have looked that up in the meantime, right?
Okay.
I think it's
That's
work
oormodel
patterns.
in Dutch, right? So
Work
Um,
patterns, was that where we ended up?
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, work. Thank you very much, John. Work patterns.
What was it?
Work patterns, we call it.
Work patterns. Okay. It's very
I got
in
about a
Dutch.
month to get that in between my two ears. So
Yeah. But in the training, you will do that for your own job and for other jobs. So we will practice how you do that. And it's not very complicated.
Okay.
yeah. So is it?
Or time consuming, yes.
No, not
Well,
necessarily. And so what Paul also developed. So there's a lot of sort of work behind this. One of the things he developed is this work pattern model, and basically looking at the type of work that you have. And so what you do at the start of this is you start describing that job, but then you start filling in under each of the value systems. So you can say, well, there's a task here, to be politically busy. So that goes under the red, like work with politics, that will probably go on the red. Mediation goes on the green, or as remark that was made in the comments. Of course, there's more parts of that. So, and then you start to determine which percentage that is of the job, and that's how you get that profile, basically.
Okay,
And
thanks.
then the next step is that we actually go in there and look at the competencies that are required, and they will put them under. The document you get is you get that graph, and then underneath it you get the competencies. So that's like a one pager that you can discuss with your candidate, basically,
Yeah.
and you can show them, and yeah.
Okay,
I-
thanks.
Yeah.
I did practice this with a lot of people, and you don't need a high education to do the practice. So there's all different levels of education that I got, and it's not very important. Not it is important, but it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Everybody can do it.
I also have a question. I am wondering what do you consider more relevant for being successful in a job? Is it your values or is it your character strength?
That's a good one.
Because, I was working very much with the concepts of positive psychology lately. And I feel that, if someone can really work on her or his strengths, this is giving so much energy to the person. And I mean, there is a lot of scientific studies now that show that people who really can work with their strengths, they are more successful, they are healthier, they are more creative, they are more innovative, and so on. So I am asking myself, are the values really the relevant thing, or maybe the individual strength of a person?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point, Sibyl. In fact, it is both. And it has the way we measure the values, it's a relative scale. So everybody is scoring 100% if you add up all the values. But that's a relative scale. So if two persons have a score for 30% in the green system, the quantitative difference can be there, but that's not measured. We measure how it is distributed inside the person itself, but the strength of two persons can differ quite well. So you have to add that as well. But what you can do is with the value profile, find out if in principle this person can handle the complexity of the job. And in my practice, I can see that a lot of mistakes are made on that level, even on very high position functions. But to give you a straight, direct answer, in fact, you need both.
Okay.
And in this model, it is we look at competences based on the personal, on the job biography of a person. That gives a little bit, that shows a little bit the strength of a person, but not this direct link that you were talking about.
Okay, thank you very much.
John, please.
Well, I'm thinking, listening to this, so I want to check my thinking on this, that you can be as strong as you like, but if you're pushing in the wrong direction, if you're applying it in the wrong place, that actually isn't helpful. So for me, I would still see it that the values are more important than the strength of character.
Yeah. In fact, I agree. I have seen such a lot of organizations with big, strong managers on the top who direct the organization in the wrong way, and then that's really awful. I guess all of you will have experiences like that as well, that the top dog in the organization can't handle the complexity.
And then you got the layers. What do you define as strength, right? So from an orange perspective, the strength looks very different than from a green perspective or from a blue perspective.
Yeah.
So there's also that.
But in fact, you need both. That's what I think, and I tend to agree with John as well. Out of my experience, this value thing is a very important characteristic to find a fit. Because indeed, if you're a very strong person, pressing the organization in the wrong direction, the problems are huge.
Good. Anders, I'll get to your question in a moment. I just wanted to do a few slides on the practicalities, just so that we fit that into the time frame, and then we have enough time to answer any questions. So what I just wanted.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't a question. This more kind of chipping into the discussions we're just having. So
Okay, good. Yeah,
I can wait if you want to.
No, please go ahead then. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for crashing in.
Yeah.
I feel like this obviously is quite complex. So, but I began to work with some people in Switzerland and in Germany to see, but how can we connect and how can you make draw some kind of inference in between values and different kind of strength you would have or drivers, needs, whatever, and to see, some of the values I would expect to have some predominance into some kind of strength and drivers you have, whereas in others some other would be dominating. So I mean the whole view is a bit obscure. So it's but I buy into what you're saying at the moment, both Sibyl and John and Walker and everyone. So you do need both. And as an amendment, I mean, I met with people who claim to be quite, using these instruments. I don't have, immense experience interpreting this, but I've done it in some cases, and I know the kind of what's behind the scenes. And some people claim to be quite green, even yellow, mentally and kind of aspirational wise, when it comes to when kind of what do you call it, push come to shove, or the other way around, John? I don't know. You're British. I mean, basically, in real life, you will not always behave. For instance, you may not have the empathic capacity. You may not have whatever you need to behave in the manner which would kind of qualify or kind of expected from that kind of value system you claim to be in. You see what I mean? So you have a dissonance as well in here. So you have your different streams of development you need to consider. And the interview would, as you said before, Walker, would be an excellent means of understanding, acceptance, rejections, and then have the nuances of the different streams of development. And so it's quite much of up to the coach to understand and to drill deeper and to understand the kind of complexity of it.
Yeah, and Anders, what always is very important is to know that what you measure with a value profile is the personal image of the person who fills out the questionnaire. So that has always to be checked by a professional. Once I had a task profile that required a lot of green, but the person had the ID that he was very green himself, but it was a person with no feelings or whatsoever. It was a big head on a stick, and that's what you find out when you check as a professional the validity of the value profile, because sometimes people can get a very strange image of themselves that doesn't relate to their behavior.
Exactly, spot on.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just shortly address the training that we're offering. So there is, for those of you that are unfamiliar with this, we have two types of certifications that we work with. As ValueMatch, we want to make, when you do our ValueMatch certified practitioner training or certified coach training, we make sure that you can work with our instruments, and you need some SPA dynamics knowledge to start that. We don't necessarily check that, but during the training you'll get trained. But there also is the SPA dynamics integral foundation, the Don Beck's SPA dynamics integral foundation, which authorizes us to deliver certified training, SPA dynamics level 1, level 2, and level 3. And we offer both. So if you look at our trainings, you see that the first one we offer here is the SPA dynamics fundamentals level 1 training, which is the base knowledge in spiral, so that you really know and really understand SPA dynamics. That gives you a level 1 certification within the SPA dynamics certification. You can follow up with any level 2 programs. At the moment, there's a few people out there doing them, but that can be any. And as ValueMatch, we offer the ValueMatch certified practitioner training, which is also a level 2 training, and that gets you, if you do both of that, you get SPA dynamics certified, but you also get ValueMatch certified. If you already have enough SPA dynamics knowledge and you want to follow our training, you can do that, and you get the ValueMatch certification, but not necessarily the Spiral Dynamics certification. So this training that we are going to offer, we do require you to have knowledge of interpreting our profile. So either have the ValueMatch certified coach or the ValueMatch certified practitioner certification. If you have that, you can join a matching job. And we do offer on our website, we offer the ValueMatch certified practitioner training also. You can do it shorter. That's what we call the ValueMatch certified coach training. We don't have that as a package, but if you're seeing this and you have an interest, but you only work in coaching, not in organizational development, then drop us a line and we'll offer you a trajectory where you can do where you can choose this path. You don't have to do the full certified practitioner training. We on March 24th we start this what we call matching jobs and people training. It consists of 3 online sessions. Paul and I will both be there and conducting it. There are you get to do your own assessment, but you also get 2 free assessments to practice with. So find 2 people whose job profile you're going to make and see whether they match. And so we give you the free assessments are part of the training for that. The training is in English. The template that we offer you is in English, but it's very easy to translate. So we will, and we'll probably translate it. During the training, we'll probably have it in Dutch and in English. And then, but any of your languages, if you have a need for your language, that profile document, we can very quickly translate that for you, thanks to AI and so on. We had an early bird discount set at February 15th, but that was yesterday. So I moved the early bird discount to tomorrow. So if there's anybody here that wanted to see this session before registering, you can still do that with the early bird discount. Any questions about those practicalities? And basically, so the training gives you a license to work with the template that we provide, right? So to do this method. And as I said before, so when you start to applying this, you obviously have to let people fill out the values assessment. So that's something you have to buy. But once you've done the training, you don't have to buy this product anymore. This is just a template you get. You can use that, and it's linked into our values assessment, and there's no other sort of costs for you involved. Good. Any other questions, either about the practicalities or about the contents? Just let me.
Yeah, so one more question. So how much is the ValueMatch profile test?
That depends on what
The
package
company.
you have.
Yeah.
You mean like a single? So the recommended retail price is 73 euros, and then depending on whether you're a reseller or end user, you get some discount on that, which I think goes up for your company about 30% maximum. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So, but you can find that also if you go to the website under value base. If you log into www.valuematch.net, if you go to value base, then underneath that you see the pricing, and you can put, there's a calculator there as well. So
yeah. Thanks.
I've put a link to the training on our platform where you can register in the link here, but I'll also send an email tonight about that. So, yeah. Good. Any other questions about this? Are they certified for hiring in the US? I don't know what that means. So if the US requires you to get a certain certification to use tools in hiring, then no, because we don't know about that. From our perspective, you're certified to use them in the US, but I don't think that's what you're asking, Ralph.
They are usually asking spiral dynamics 1 to 3 levels.
Who do you?
United States, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we can offer all that. So, yeah. The level, the Sprono's level 3 is like a mentor program, right? So if anybody's interested in that, if you have a project that you work on in which you want to apply spiral dynamics in, you can work with one of the certified trainers, which 3 of them are online here. Paul, of course, Mark, of course, and John, I think. Oh yeah, John, there you are. Yeah. So
Still
you
here.
can work with, with people to do that. And
What I meant with this is that, for example, Clifton Strength from Gallup is not certified as a hiring tool. And no matter how certified I am as a person, I cannot use this tool for hiring people, only for afterwards after I hired, because in the law in the US it says it has to be the best tool on the market or certified by the state in order to be used during the hiring process.
okay. Well, we certainly haven't gone through the US certification with that. So the answer to that question is no. Then. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and I hope to see some of you on the training. And well, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say about the training is, well, so far we're planning to do it once a year. We may set it up at some stage as like an online add-on that you can do. You can start whenever you want, but that's not there yet. So we expect that we will schedule it now in March, and then the next one we will probably schedule in March next year.
Thank you so much. Quite interesting.
Thank you very
everybody
much.
for attending, and have a good
Thank you.
afternoon or
Thank you.
day.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone.